Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Today is January 30th, and so we're only 2 days away from being in 2025. And so I'm making this live video today to remind everyone that tax season is approaching and we can help you file your taxes for 2025, everything that you have for this past year. If you were a first time small business and you don't know how to get started, you don't know what you need, give us a call. We are offering free consultations to help you prepare for your tax returns. So if you are a first time small business owner, we are offering free consultations the month of January. In January, you can come to us and ask us any questions that you may have about preparing your taxes. Oh, the light's not. What happened to the light? There it goes. Okay. So, hola Denise, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Also, I wanted to let everyone know that we do have a special program that you can qualify for if you typically receive a refund. So sometimes people don't file their taxes because they're like, I don't have any money to pay. How can I file my taxes? I need my money, but I don't have any money. So we do have a solution for you. We do partner with the bank that allows us to file your taxes for you, and you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. The money comes out of your refund once it has been dispersed by the IRS. You have to be eligible for a refund for this program. So if you typically have to pay and you are not expecting a refund, you won't be eligible for the program. But if you typically have to pay, I mean, we still have to file your taxes. And the longer you wait, the longer you postpone filing your taxes, the bigger the bill is going to be because the IRS charges you interest from day one of when the original return was due. So don't push it back because you're just causing there to be a bigger tax bill. A lot of people are asking me right now, like, what are some of the things that we need if we're filing taxes for the first time as a small business? Well, it's going to vary by business. Every business has different filing requirements based on their industry, right? Different industries have different expenses they can write off. Not everybody. For example, a hairstylist may have certain deductions versus someone who provides services. A nail tech may have different expenses they can deduct. A realtor has different expenses they can deduct. And sometimes we're just not quite sure what those expenses are. Well, I would love to help you kind of figure it out. Truck drivers have different expenses. So if you're like a truck driver, if you're an Uber driver, Uber drivers have different expenses. One of the things that a lot of people confuse are the meals. I always get people that want to write off their meals. Your personal meals are not tax deductible. You are still responsible for providing your lunch on a daily basis. The only meals that are partially tax deductible are meals that you have with clients. So let's say you are a realtor, right? And you go out to have lunch with, a couple of potential buyers, or you invite them for coffee. So you can write off 50% of the cost of that meal, but you cannot go and have coffee by yourself and write that off. That's not considered a business expense. That's going to help, your business. You go like to an event, to like a pop-up, to set up a table to promote your business. Typically that's considered a marketing expense. And yes, you can write that off. If you get uniforms for your business, if you're like a painter or a landscaper, you can write off uniforms. Anything that has like your logo, you can write it off. Some people ask me if they can write off their work clothes. It depends, it's if it's something that you're gonna wear every day, that you can wear it to work and off work, then technically no. Now it's kind of a tricky question because it kind of depends what industry you're in. So let's say you're an influencer, you're an actual influencer, not somebody who has 300 followers and doesn't generate income. So you have to be someone who's an actual, like let's say a fashionista. You do fashion content, so you're constantly buying clothes to create content. In those circumstances, some of the stuff you buy may be tax deductible. I get a lot of people that ask if they can write off their car and their mileage and their oil changes and this and that. Well, it depends. If the car is registered under your name, there's certain expenses you can take. If the car is registered under your company name, there's other benefits you can take. But also, you have to decide if you want to do like the mileage or if you want to do actual expenses. Typically, the mileage is kind of like a formula that allows you to, hi Cindy, that allows you to kind of bundle everything. All you have to do is track the mileage. And the way you track your mileage is if you don't have a home office, like an official home office, then you start tracking your miles from your first point of work. So let's say you drive every morning to your shop or to your office, or you start the day out, with your first client. So from the first client, you go visit another client, then another client, then those miles from one client to the next, those count. If you have an actual home office, a space that's exclusively designated for office work for your business, you can start counting the mileage from your house because you start your work day there, then you go to the next point. But if you don't have a home office, the miles from your house to the first point, those do not count. Another question that people ask a lot too is, how much am I going to get for my deductions? I have so many dependents. Well, that's going to vary because it depends on how much money you made. The more you make, you can get phased out to where you no longer qualify for any of the credits, like the child tax credit, the earned income credit. Most of those have a cap at about $59,000 for the earned income credit with dependents and stuff. So if you make over like $60,000, you can have 3-4 kids, and chances are you might not get the earned income credit for the kids, and the child tax credit, you can get the credit, but it starts phasing out too. So the more you make, the smaller it is. And also remember that child tax credits most of the time are just credits. There were a few exceptions during COVID where they were actually refunding the child tax credit and they were giving you money, but typically it's more of a credit that helps offset your liabilities. So that's something real important too, that you have to understand the difference between an actual refund and an actual credit that's just going to help your liabilities. Another question, sorry, that I get asked a lot as well that has to do is for the child care. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for tagging everyone. I appreciate that. Also, if you have child care expenses, dependent care expenses, there's a certain amount that's deductible, but most of it is just a credit. Once again, it's only a credit to offset liabilities. What I mean by liabilities is if you typically have to pay the IRS, you can use those credits to help reduce that debt, right? So that if you were going to pay $2,000 and you got $1,000 credit, well, then now you only got to pay $1,000 versus you're going to get a refund, right? I get that question a lot too when it comes to solar panels. Solar panels can get a little confusing for people because I know I don't want to kill anybody's vibe about getting solar panels, but if you're gonna get solar panels, you should do it because it's gonna save you money on your actual energy bills, right? Two, you really want to create your footprint on this planet where you're helping save the earth by using clean energy. So that's should be the two main reasons why you get panels. You shouldn't do it because you're expecting a refund, because they're not refunds, they are credits. So if you typically do not have a liability for the IRS, you're not going to get a fat check. You're not going to get a check for 25% or 30% of the cost of your solar panels. Now, if you typically have to pay like 30 grand every year, then you can take some of the credit. But also remember, there's caveats, because once you get to a certain income level, some of those credits wash out. So if you're already making like over 6 figures, even if you buy all the solar panels, you can already potentially bump yourself out from being eligible for the for the clean energy credit. So you have to make sure that before you make these decisions of investing in solar panels for the sole purpose of a tax credit, make sure you are eligible. Consult with a tax consultant. Call me, make an appointment. I would be more than happy to kind of review your situation and see if this is something that will be beneficial for you or not. Like I said, so if you're going to get solar panels or if you're going to get um, EV, the electric vehicles, don't do it for the tax credit. Do it because you really want to create that footprint of helping with clean energy. You really want to save the planet, whatever. Have something bigger, a bigger reason. The tax credit is just a plus, but it shouldn't be the only reason why you get solar panels. And I know I'm going to get some backlash because I have family members who sell solar panels, but I just want to be honest and transparent about that because some people get confused with, the difference between a credit versus a refund. And so, and a lot of people these past couple of years have been in shock when they phased themselves out of child tax credits, earned income credits. Those fat refund checks weren't there because you may have started making more money. One thing is when you're making $10, $12 an hour, but once you're making 40, 50, 60 grand a year, once you're making 60 grand a year, you might as well say goodbye to most of those fat refund checks because they're not going to happen. Also, you have to make a certain amount too. You have to at least, there's like a baseline of what you need to make to be eligible for the credits on some of them. And then there's a cap out where you have to make under a certain amount to be eligible for the full credits. So it's not like, it's not a black and white, everybody gets this, you get this, one kid equals this, two kids equals this. No, because that can have variations. Also, one of the credits that I see that's not fully taken advantage of is the tuition credits. When you're paying for tuition out of pocket, you can get a credit. They're not going to give you, again, like the full refund, but you can get a partial credit. Like say an example, I had someone who paid $2,000 in tuition out of pocket. After the credit, they got like a $700 refund based on their income and other factors. So every case is different. So just because your friend got one refund, that doesn't mean you're going to get it. And one thing I do not promote or I do not pride in is trying to say I get you back fat refunds because I don't. I give you what you are eligible for, and I will try my best to help you take advantage of as many credits as possible, as many deductions as possible that are within, ethical, legal limits. But I'm not gonna put you in a position where if you have an audit a few years from now, you're gonna end up paying a lot of penalties and fees because that's not the way I like to do business. I want to make sure that you're not getting chargebacks a few years from now because an audit came through and you don't have the documentation to prove that you were eligible for those refunds. So also, if you're a small business owner, if this was your first year as an Uber driver, your first year as like a DoorDasher, Grubhub, Instacart, if this was your first year and you don't know how to file taxes, I'll help you out with that. I can help you with the mileage. There's not, unfortunately, as an Uber driver, there's not a whole lot of credits you can take. Like I said, some people buy the cars thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to write it off. A few years ago, we had like 100% bonus depreciation on cars with certain requirements, but that's gone down to 60% for this year. So you're not able to take the full 100% depreciation. There's different ways to work things. So, just kind of make sure you go to someone who knows how to make sure, like I try to dig and see what can we legally take to help you reduce your liability. And by liability, I'm going to clarify this again. It means when you owe money. So, when you are going to take deductions, make sure you also have the proper documentation, showing like your receipts, your invoices, credit card statements, invoices. Make sure you're not double dipping, like, because sometimes you already you have the receipt and you paid for it with your credit card. And so you're like, oh, well, I paid it here, but I also paid it with my credit card. And I'm making payments to the credit card. No, you can only take it once. So sometimes it's tricky because people think, oh, I just got to deduct everything I paid on my card. Well, no, because you have to still know how to separate the two. You can write off interest on business credit cards. So that's like a little extra plus that you can write off, but you cannot duplicate the expense. And I see that gets confusing sometimes and can take a little extra time to go through your books. But we also offer bookkeeping services. So that's kind of where we're able to go through all your expenses every month, all your revenue, and that's where we are able to see where those extra deductions are at. Also, another deduction that's kind of missed is Facebook ads. If you put money like into Facebook to promote your products, your services, you can write that off as a marketing expense. Business cards can be written off as a marketing expense. If you buy radio ads, TV ads, marketing expenses, billboards, and a lot of businesses don't take advantage of that. So I think marketing is a very important expense. Excuse me. I'm trying to cover all my bases, so I'm just kind of rambling. If somebody has a specific question that you guys want to ask, take advantage. But like I said, if you want to book all of January, I'm offering free consultations for small businesses so that we can review your current tax situation and help you get your bookkeeping in order. And so I know this gets confusing too, but bookkeeping services are a completely separate expense from your tax preparation services. Bookkeeping is
get 50% off QuickBooks Online for 3 months.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Bookkeeping services basically are those month-to-month services where we're keeping tabs of
finances differently.
I keep putting my thing on the thing. It's when you bookkeeping. So bookkeeping services are where we help you keep track of everything that goes in and goes out. It's like the balance sheet. And so as a business owner, you need to be tracking this every single month. Like what came in, what went out. You should know if you're being profitable or not profitable. Because a lot of times people see money coming in and they're like, oh, I'm making money. I made $30,000 this month. But how much did you spend on expenses? Did you have $29,000 in expenses? How much did you really make $1,000? Are you really being profitable? So having a bookkeeper that can help you track those expenses is very important. And making sure that they're tracking the expenses that are deductible. Because like I said, just because you swipe it with the business credit card, that does not mean it's automatically eligible for a business expense. It's important to keep both your personal expenses and your business expenses separate, have two separate accounts. And people are like, oh, well, it's because I wanted to buy this, but I didn't have. Well, make sure first you're transferring money or writing yourself a check from your business account to your personal account, and then make sure it's traceable. Don't just go make a cash withdrawal and just because then it'll be like there's no way to measure it or track it. So make sure that any money that you take out of your account, it's being funneled through the proper channels. So if it's going to be money for personal expenses, write yourself a check from your business account to your personal account and put on there like if that's your salary for the month, pay yourself. Make it to where you have a consistent payment to yourself. So like if on average your business generates, let's say $20,000 a month, and usually you pay yourself $2,000 a month because that's kind of what you need for your personal expenses, and the rest of the money you use it for inventory, marketing, or whatever. Try to keep it always steady. One of the mistakes that we make is, okay, so January, February, March, I only made $5,000, so I didn't pay myself any money because I barely broke even, or I was at a loss because everything was invested into the business. So then May comes around and you make $20,000, and then you're like, okay, well, let me take those $20,000 back because I had already put those other that other money in the first of the month. Well, that's not a good idea because you need to keep money there for your business to keep operating. Money, cash flow is the bloodline of your business. So if you take that money out and then the next month you have a bad month, what do you have now? So try to set yourself up into having a consistent income. Even if one month you had a really good month, until you are for sure like, hey, year after year, I have this set amount. Businesses are just like anything else. It takes time to build them and you build patterns. If you're consistent with your business, eventually you're going to have a consistent pattern and you'll learn it throughout the cycles. You're going to have, for example, here in Kansas City, we have a lot of up and down cycles. So a lot of businesses, their sales go down drastically in January and February because everybody, because of the weather, a lot of people stop working in construction. So there's a big dip in sales. So then that means that when business picks up in March, April, May after taxes and everybody has refunds and you're making 3-4 times the money, those months you need to be saving so that you can have that steady income flow in January, February, March of next year. So make it to where you're spreading it out evenly. You know how when the Kansas gas hits you up or BPU hits you up like on those average payment plans? So even though in the winter your bill is $800, but you're still only paying $200 a month just to make sure that it doesn't fluctuate, you need to set yourself up to do something similar on those months. Even if it's a really good month, just keep your salary, your personal payments to be a set amount consistently. That way you always have that money there. And that's also going to help you for when you apply for credit. As someone who's self-employed, it's harder to get credits because you don't have that W-2 to demonstrate. So a lot of times when you're self-employed, lenders or banks or whatever, they ask for your bank statements. Like if you want to go buy a car and they want to see in there that you have like a steady income and that you have steady cash flow. So you want to make sure that you position yourself from the beginning to set aside a specified amount of income. Also, separate the money for your taxes. So if you pay yourself $2,000 every month, make sure that out of those $2,000, you're also setting aside 15-20% to pay for your taxes. And you're supposed to be paying those quarterly. I know a lot of times I'm guilty of this too because I didn't know what I was doing when I was younger. So you know how a lot of times you go to your tax preparer and they give you those 4 vouchers, like those 4 coupons to make payments. So you're paying for the next year. So like every 3 months, you're supposed to pay your portion of your income taxes to the IRS. So whatever you made January, February, and March, you have to send a percentage of that with those vouchers. And then, because you got to pay it quarterly. And then, so then April, May, June, that's the second quarter. So in June, again, you send like 15-20% of that. So if you pay yourself $2,000 every month, so every quarter you're paying yourself $6,000, then you need to have 15-20% of that set aside for your taxes. And if you're paying that consistently quarterly, then at the end of the year, you're not going to have a big bill for $6,000-$7,000. And the IRS penalizes you for not doing that. If you skipped one quarter and didn't make the payment on top of what you already owe, they will penalize you close to $500. I think it's like $495. And on top of that, they add interest to that. So yeah, you're going to owe that big lump plus the penalties plus the interest. So it's important to make sure that every quarter you're paying your money on time. We all have to pay taxes. There's no ifs or buts about it. Some people think they can get away with not paying taxes, but if you have any sort of income as a self-employed person, once you make $400 or more, you automatically have to report income as a self-employed person. So even if you only made $400, you got to pay 20% of those $400 or whatever your tax bracket is, or 10%. Let's say if you only made $400, well, then your income's only at 10%, right? So the more you make, the higher the tax bracket. So, just start off the year right. Be patient, be persistent. Consistency having a bookkeeper can save you a lot of headaches. Sometimes we think, oh, it's an expense or it's going to cost me money, but really it's going to just save you a lot of headaches. I don't know, does anybody have any questions? Hi, Julia. Hola, Juliana, ¿cómo estás? Saludos. Estoy explicando ahorita un poquito, contestando preguntas de muchas de las cosas que me preguntan cuando llega la temporada de impuestos. Y pues hay muchas cosas que a veces se confunde la gente. Eso estaba explicando un poquito acerca de la diferencia entre lo que es un reembolso, los créditos que son reembolsables, que el IRS te da un cheque, versus los créditos que solamente son un crédito que te ayudan a reducir tu obligación tributaria. Disculpe, ya he estado hablando mucho. So, les decía que tengan cuidado cuando hacen una compra porque quieren un crédito. A veces muchas personas compran carros o instalan paneles solares en su casa porque hay créditos disponibles, ¿no? De hasta 20-30% del costo, pero no lo deben de hacer solamente por eso. Si lo van a hacer es porque van a ahorrarse en su bill de la luz, ¿no? De hasta 20-30% del costo. Segundo, es porque por lo regular les toca pagar. Si les toca pagar taxes cada año, pues entonces es un beneficio porque eso va a ayudar a reducir su obligación o su deuda de los taxes. Pero si por lo general ustedes reciben un reembolso, entonces el crédito realmente no les va a aplicar porque el crédito solamente es como para reducir su deuda. Entonces, es una pregunta que se me hizo mucho este año pasado. Esto sería bueno contestarlo. También me preguntan mucho, algo que veo muy seguido es las comidas. Mucha gente llega con sus recibos y me trae sus recibos de sus comidas diarias. Y sus comidas, sus lunches diarios que ustedes compran no son reembolsables. Solamente hay ciertas comidas que se pueden reducir. Tienen que ser cenas relacionadas o comidas relacionadas con algo que está ayudando a impulsar su negocio, como una reunión con un cliente, una reunión con el personal. Por ejemplo, si es alguien que los sábados, los dealers hacen mucho de que, por ejemplo, los sábados es el día más ocupado para ellos o no quieren que los vendedores se vayan a salir a comprar lonche. Entonces lo que hacen es compran pizzas para todos, para que todo el personal coma, pero para que estén ahí atendiendo a los clientes. Entonces, como un beneficio para el negocio, para que haya siempre bastante personal, compran, entonces en ese caso sí se podría reducir. O por ejemplo ahora las posadas, cuando hacen la cena de una posada, se puede reducir. Ahora los regalos hay que tener cuidado porque no todo se puede deducir. Hay ciertos límites en lo que puede comprar uno como un regalo para sus empleados sin que después tenga que reportar el que recibe el regalo como un tax. Y también el IRS solamente les va a dejar deducir cierta cantidad. Un monto justo por lo regular es como $25. Eso no tiene implicación de taxes y por lo regular se puede deducir como una gift card de $25, pero ya montos exagerados por lo regular no son permitidos. También los costos de entretenimiento. Antes era muy común que los negocios compraban como boletos para los Chiefs o los Royals, para dárselos a clientes, para entretenerlos, para mantenerlos contentos. Eso ya no es algo deducible, ya no se puede, ya se quitó. Entonces, por eso es importante tener un preparador de impuestos que esté actualizado porque todo va cambiando. Lo que a lo mejor hace 2-3 años valía, quizás ya se eliminó, ya no esté disponible, así como los Child Tax Credits que van cambiando, subiendo. Un año fueron reembolsables, ahorita ya no son reembolsables. El Earned Income Credit sí puede ser reembolsable. Y también tiene que ver mucho cuánto gana uno, porque llega un punto uno que estos últimos 2 años que la gente empezó a ganar más, muchas personas que ganaban $10-11 la hora, estaban ganando menos de 15, ahora con los nuevos sueldos que todo el mundo le subió, si están ganando ya más de $60,000, olvídense, ya no hay créditos realmente disponibles. Todo ese dinero puedes tener 5, 6, 7 niños, pero si ya ganaste más del límite, ya no te van a dar más. Entonces, el hecho de que tengas hijos no te garantiza reembolsos. Solamente están disponibles cuando ganas un monto dentro de cierto rango, porque también tienes que ganar una cantidad mínima y tener una cantidad máxima. Si ganas menos de eso, te dan una parte. Si ganas más de eso, te van quitando. Unos se van, como quien dice, entre más ganas te van haciendo phase out, lo van, ¿cómo se dice la palabra? Lo van como desvaneciendo, ¿no? Entre más ganas, menos te van dando. Y hay unos que en cuanto pegas ese tope, ya, hasta ahí ya se eliminó, ya no te dan nada. Entonces, no nomás es de que gané tanto, tengo 3 dependents, me deben de dar tanto. Cada caso es diferente, cada situación es diferente, cada negocio es diferente, cada gasto para cada negocio tiene su propio manera de manejarse. Por ejemplo, si yo soy un estilista, yo puedo deducir pinzas, tijeras, clippers. Pero si yo soy declaradora de impuestos, yo puedo descontar computadoras, calculadoras, cuadernos, pero no puedo decir planchas, ni cepillos, ni productos para el cabello. Entonces, tienen que tener, um, porque a veces es que mi amiga dedujo eso, pero sí, ¿por qué? ¿Qué justifica el negocio de ella para que ella sí pueda deducir eso? Y realmente fue algo que sí técnicamente se podía tomar. O sea, hay muchas cosas que están como en una área gris que tiene uno que saber cómo colocar bien las cosas. Y por eso ahora el mes de enero voy a ofrecer consultas gratis para los pequeños negocios para que vengan, hagan una consulta, me traigan sus papeles, recibos y les puedo asesorar y dejarles saber cómo proceder para que también alcancen a hacer su declaración de impuestos a tiempo. Si usted tiene un partnership, que sean socios, que su negocio está registrado como sociedad, la fecha límite es el 15 de marzo. Si no tiene sociedad y tiene, pues es solamente una persona, un dueño, entonces tiene hasta el 15 de abril. Entonces, a mí no me gusta hacer extensiones porque pues te dan permiso de declarar, pero no te perdonan el pago. So, de todas maneras, tú tienes que pagar un monto basado en lo que te tocó pagar pagar el año pasado. So, si el año pasado pagaste 8,000, entonces este año tienes que mandar ese monto el 15 de abril, al menos de que puedas demostrar que no te corresponde ese monto. Entonces, es mejor tener tu declaración hecha a tiempo para que no estés pagando dinero y aparte no tengas que pagar multas, porque si te esperas hasta el 15 de octubre para mandar tu pago, ya acumuló intereses de todas maneras, no es como si te lo van a perdonar, el bill va a estar ahí. So, con tiempo se prepara uno para hacer la declaración a tiempo, o me pueden llamar para hacer una consulta gratis sin costo para ver cómo les podemos ayudar, qué se tienen que traer para prepararse, porque sí, como les digo, la parte de la contabilidad es por separado, no es parte de lo que es la declaración de impuestos. Muchas personas ya la traen lista, ya vienen preparados, pero otras personas no. Y entonces yo lo que hago es, les doy 2 opciones. Te puedo ofrecer yo el servicio del bookkeeping, de la contabilidad, te digo cuánto te cuesta o te digo qué tienes que hacer tú para tú organizar tu contabilidad y te lo explico ahí de acuerdo a tu negocio, cómo te puedes tú organizar y así para que tú regreses a tiempo ya que tú me traigas todo en orden si te quieres ahorrar ese dinero, pero igual, como les digo, la contabilidad, los recibos y eso es completamente separado. Se usa esa información para hacer la declaración, pero el resumen de esos gastos, la separación, la organización de esos gastos es un servicio muy aparte y es donde se confunde a veces uno. Dicen, ay, pero ¿por qué pagué tanto? Pues no pagaste tanto por la declaración, lo que estás pagando es ahora el servicio de contabilidad. Y bueno, pues espero que pues este video les haya ayudado tantito, pero asesórense para su caso específico, su situación, porque es como los casos de migración, ¿no? Cada caso es diferente, cada negocio tiene su propia situación. Um, la renta, hay algunos que pagan renta, algunos que pagan en su casa o whatever, entonces, y hay mucha información un poco que confunde a la gente que ves videos como en TikTok y en YouTube y eso, y te dicen, ¿sabías que puedes decir eso? Sí, a algunas personas, pero no todas, entonces llegan las personas, quiero decir mis millas de mi carro, pero si tú trabajas por tu cuenta para una empresa, no puedes deducir las millas de tu carro porque no trabajas por tu cuenta. Si trabajas por tu cuenta, sí, porque cuando las estás manejando para otro negocio, pues el negocio se supone que ellos te tienen que cubrir ese gasto. Ahora, hay excepciones donde hay ciertos límites que puedes deducir gastos que tu trabajo no te reembolsó y hay ciertas excepciones. También, por ejemplo, las maestras, las personas que son maestras pueden agarrar un crédito de $300 si compraron útiles o materiales para el salón, porque pues muchas maestras, como saben, les faltan fondos y a veces no alcanzan a no alcanza el budget del estado, lo que sea, y entonces terminan comprando a veces lápices, cuadernos, marcadores, cosas para la escuela y pueden tomar un crédito de $300 las maestras cada año. Y pues sí, pues hay cualquier cosa, aquí les voy a dar mi número, este es el número de la oficina, 913-242-7225, 913-242-7225. Por ejemplo, les voy a dar un ejemplo de un gasto. Yo aquí tengo este gasto de mi estudio, mi estudio aquí del podcast. Y como yo este estudio lo uso como para hacer mi marketing para mi negocio, pues es un gasto que es deducible para mi empresa porque estoy usándolo para proveer información a mis clientes o para conseguir más clientes. Eh, Hablando de ese tema, hay algo que también el IRS toma en cuenta, es distinguir la diferencia entre un negocio y un hobby, porque hay ciertos hobbies que pueden generar ingresos. Pero cuando tú tienes lo que es un hobby, ten cuidado porque hay mucha gente que dice, es que yo solamente lo hago por diversión. No lo hago para ganar, lo hago por diversión. Bueno, si esto lo haces para diversión, no para ganar, entonces no puedes agarrar los mismos créditos que agarra un negocio. No puedes deducir todo como negocios. Entonces, es importante también conocer esa diferencia. Ok, no, yo en los fines de semana hago pasteles, pero no lo hago como negocio, yo lo hago como un hobby porque a mí me gusta la repostería. Entonces, eso cambia mucho qué puedes deducir y qué no puedes deducir. Entonces, si quieren que su negocio de repostería sea un negocio real, pues es importante que también lo traten conforme lo que es un negocio real, no registrarlo y todo. Um, y es que a veces uno dice, no, es que yo no quiero reportar nada, pero por no reportar a veces también uno se está perdiendo de tomar ciertas ventajas de las deducciones. Um, y se ve más y más la desventaja cuando quieren comprar casa. Porque muchas personas dicen, no, pues no quiero pagar mucho de taxes, quiero meter todo, ahí se inventan gastos y dicen, no, pues ya después de los gastos nomás fueron 20,000, ya no me va a tocar pagar nada, tengo niños o ya no voy a pagar nada porque voy a agarrar un reembolso por los créditos de los niños. Entonces van a querer comprar casa, van al banco, llevan su de $20,000 y le dice el banco, pues lo siento mucho, pero pues con estos 20,000 nomás te va a alcanzar para un préstamo. Es un decir, te van a alcanzar $70,000. Dice, no, pero ¿cómo? Yo quiero comprar una casa de $300,000. Pues sí, pues necesitas ganar ingresos de $300,000. Pero ojo, porque también no se puede uno poner a inventar ingresos que no son reales, porque muchas veces, pues yo voy a poner que gané tanto, no voy a meter mis gastos, porque eso también es considerado el no reportar bien tus ganancias y tus gastos, omitir ciertos ingresos para acomodarte a tu favor los números puede ser considerado fraude. Tú puedes tener problemas tanto con el banco como con el IRS. Así es que tengan mucho cuidado cuando alguien les aconseja que vayan con su declarador de impuestos y que les acomoden los taxes a su favor para que puedan comprar casa. ¿Por qué? Porque tampoco eso no les va a ayudar, porque si usted realmente no ganó $100,000 al año, porque realmente su negocio necesita $50,000 de gastos, o realmente usted nomás generó 50,000 en ganancias, tampoco no se, como dicen en inglés, don't shoot yourself in the foot, no se pongan la soga al cuello, porque el banco le va a prestar de acuerdo a lo que ellos dicen que usted puede pagar para vivir. Pero si usted está poniendo números que no son reales, usted mismito se va a poner en una posición donde no le va a alcanzar para hacer su pago de su casa y tener que cubrir con todos sus gastos. So, es importante siempre hacer las cosas bien, con honestidad, porque al fin de cuentas, cuando queremos engañar al gobierno, nos engañamos a nosotros mismos y a veces nosotros mismos nos cuatrapeamos, como dicen por ahí. Y pues bueno, pues los invito a que me llamen para agendar su cita al 913-242-7225, 913-242-7225. Y si quieren que haga más videos así como este, que les dé más tips, más consejos, mándenme sus preguntas y con gusto puedo estar aquí lista para contestar sus dudas. Nos vemos pronto. Y recuerden que también ofrecemos seguros en diferentes para negocio, casa, auto, de todos los seguros. De vida para los perritos, sus gatitos, si quieren un seguro por si se le accidenta, le pasa algo. También si quiere proteger a su familia. Me interesa mucho promover los seguros de vida porque especialmente cuando uno compra casa, yo trabajo con muchos compradores de casa y veo que a veces el ingreso, la compra de la casa, hablando del tema de casa, el comprar la casa muchas veces depende de dos ingresos o de una persona. Entonces, si Dios no quiere, llega a pasar algo donde una de las personas llegan a faltar, la otra persona se queda en una situación donde ya no pueden con el pago. So, aparte de que pierden a su ser querido, terminan perdiendo su estilo de vida, su casa, terminan perdiendo la casa. Entonces, qué bonito es cuando una familia se preparó y si algo llega a pasar, tienes la tranquilidad sabiendo que tus hijos se van a quedar protegidos bajo el techo que tú les compraste. Entonces, los seguros de vida es algo que también, igual como las casas, me apasionan también los taxes. Entonces, si a usted le interesa una cotización, saber cuánto me costaría un seguro de vida, no tiene que ser mucho, puede ser simplemente lo suficiente para dejar protegida a su familia para que se pague la casa si algo le llega a pasar a usted. Y dos, para que deje sus gastos finales, ¿no? Porque la ley de la vida es todos vamos para donde mismo, unos antes que otros, pero ese es un gasto que nadie, y digo, o sea, el gobierno nos exige la ley tener seguro nuestro carro, nos exige el banco tener seguro nuestra casa porque ellos están protegiendo su inversión, pero no protegemos a nuestra familia, no protegemos nuestra vida con los últimos gastos. Entonces, eso es nosotros somos primero, para nuestra familia somos lo más importante. So, antes de asegurarle al gobierno, con la segura de auto estamos protegiendo a los demás, que si algo llega a pasar, los protegemos. La casa, el seguro es para proteger al banco y a nuestra familia, que porque ya a la familia no le dejamos nada. Protejan a sus seres queridos y llámenme para un asesoramiento sin compromiso. Igual los puedo atender al 913-242-7225, 913-242-7225. Ya son las 5:30, ya me voy. Nos vemos la próxima aquí a través de su canal favorito de la Chávez Insurance and Income Tax Services. Adiós. Hey, Gabino. Bye bye. Bye, Lupita. Bye, Mandy, Juliana, Giselle, Samantha, Cindy, and Denise. I hope I didn't miss anyone. See you guys next time.